Can you hear me all right? Jackie, can you hear me? Thumbs up if you can hear me, thumbs down if you cannot hear me.
I can hear you now.
Yeah, I can hear you now. Awesome. Thanks so much for being here. This is really exciting. You know, I'm really excited for this because you and I had talked just the other day, and you obviously went and ran with what we talked about and had an incredible story come out of it. And I think it's something that a lot of people are going to be able to benefit from, which is to hear a little bit more about how you can trust the process and not get so caught up on the result. And yet, when we let go, we end up seeing the result. So, before we get into exactly what happened, why don't you share with everybody who's watching a little bit about yourself and who you are and what you do?
This is my first ever live call, so this is like totally like wow. I don't know, I golf and it's become my passion the last couple of years and just something that fuels my whole day. It's something I'm all in on. And I've just fallen in love with the whole process. Like, who am I becoming during all of this? And it's nice. It's not, I mean, the results are great, but I really love the people I've met, the strength I've gained out there. It's just great.
And Jackie, how long have you been golfing?
Seriously, about 3 years.
About 3 years. And the lowest round you've shot?
75.
75. I know there's probably a lot of people watching thinking, oh, that's pretty motivating to hear that somebody after just 3 years of playing seriously can get down to a 75. And now that's the lowest round that you've shot. But just the other day, you had the lowest score on a hole that you've ever shot. Tell us a little bit about that hole and what happened.
It was really neat. We had talked, and then the next day I went out and really tried to just fall into the process like we had talked about and take the results off the table. There's a lot of technical stuff I'm working on my swing right now. And so I really tried to separate the training on the range between going out on the course, and then it just becomes about the process. And hopefully everything I've trained on the range, you know, the technical side will take care of itself out on the course. And so really now on the course, it's just all about where's my go zone, you know, my setup. And then like we had talked about, really just kind of sliding into that process to that place where you go, where everything else ceases to exist. And it's just you and your shot and all of that. So it was neat. I got up on the hole, and it's a par 3. It was like 112 yards, and there's 3 greenside bunkers right in front. So you have to fly it all the way there. And then there's a little ledge in the back, and the pin was on the back. And when we got up to that hole, it was just all about, for me, identifying my go zone. And then, you know, I set up to the ball and just felt myself literally slide into that place, and everything else just ceased to exist. And it was just me and the shot. And it was just so, like, I love that place, just being enveloped in there, and slid in and took my look and swung. And like, I watched it, and I was just, it was so nice as I was watching the ball go. I was just like, I'm still in this place, you know. And it took a couple seconds because the ball hit, and then I was like, that's a good shot, that's tracking towards the pin. And then it hit one more time, hit the flag stick and bounced in, and I was like, wow, that was a good shot. And then I was like, wait, oh my gosh, the ball's in the hole, like that's a hole in one.
Oh,
So it
that's
was
so awesome.
weird. Yeah, it was weird to kind of watch all that happen and then be evaluating the process and where I am, and, you know, how all that felt mentally and where I was. And then it took a couple of seconds to be like, oh, wait, oh, that's a hole in one. Like, that was really cool. So.
That is amazing. So it sounds like you were so enveloped in the process that you were almost separated. I'm going to say, and maybe I'm using the wrong words here, but it's almost like there was an emotional separation from the shot and the result. Would you say that?
Yeah, there was. It took a couple of seconds. There was a ranger up, and he was actually sitting on the green, and he yelled before I did, because I was like, oh, wow, that was a good shot. Look at that. Like, it did this. But then I was more about, okay, I'm still in this place, you know. And it was almost like you were watching the shot kind of happen, because I was so in our mental place. And he yelled, and he's like, woo, and I was like, oh my God, wait, that's a hole one. Like, so it was cool.
So I'd love to hear a little bit more about that because I feel like a lot of people who play golf get very emotional when they play. And sometimes that emotional attachment to the shot can be the detriment of the game. And I'll premise that by saying a number of years ago, when I got my professional card, when I became a Class A PGA member, I started putting a lot of pressure on myself when I went out and played. And it almost turned into, well, you're the pro now. You're not allowed to mess up. You need to hit perfect shots. And every shot, it was almost like the result of it impacted my feeling of self-worth. And it almost deterred me from playing. I had to separate myself from the game for a little while to remember why it is I play. And I know that if I'm experiencing those feelings, I'm sure a lot of other people are as well. So I'd love to hear from somebody who this just happened with. It's still fresh in your mind, but what does that look like to be able to separate yourself emotionally? And how do you, in your words, how did you get to that place?
I definitely struggle with the result out there and feeling the pressure. And, I practice so much and I train so much, and this really drives my life. And it is a lot about results. When you come in, everyone wants to know, what'd you shoot? How'd you do? And a lot of times it's not about the score, but about the different processes out on the course. And I feel like if I take care of those processes and the things I can control, then the technical side will creep in, and that's going to take care of the results for me. So it's really a separation for me about, it's almost like the shot at hand is a problem to be solved, and there's no emotional attached to that for me. It's like, okay, the pin is here. So then what do I need to do to get this ball in that hole? And it's just more problem solving, and for me, I identify the go zone, and then I go through my process, and then I go. But that shot doesn't equate to like who I am as a person. And so for me, I've really had to work hard to separate the emotional attachment between that versus just the process. And I almost want to say what I want to have happen, what I envisioned to that. So I don't know if that makes any sense.
Yeah, absolutely. So you've mentioned a couple of times now what you're calling the go zone. Can you explain to everybody watching what that means to you?
So like when I'm driving up to the green, or we're in the middle of the fairway and you have your approach shot coming in, like I've taken the green and dissected it, and there's places I don't want to go. And I used to focus on that. Like, I obviously don't want to go, if the pin is on the right side and it's tucked, I obviously don't want to go right for me, because if I miss, that's going to leave me short-sighted. So then that part of the green will be a no-go, and then there's times you don't want to go long because I don't want to have a downhill putt. So that'll be a no-go. But then I found that the more times I focused on the no-go, that was too much. Like I just wanted to identify where I wanted to go, and so I break the green down to, it's almost like a square that I draw around, in my head, or on my yardage books, I'll have a square on the green with X's. So that's my go zone, and that's where we're going when the pin is in that location. And so just to me, it's identifying and like pinpointing where I want all of my energies focused. If that makes any sense. And then it almost like narrows everything down in my mind to just that square, that target on the green, and that's where everything is focused on. And then if I do everything right, hopefully the ball goes to that place.
I love that. Mo Norman, considered one of the best ball strikers to ever live, used to say that the ball will go wherever you're focused on. And he was a big believer that for many of us, the difficult part was that we weren't able to focus on where we wanted the ball to go. And it sounds like you almost had some of that for a little while of, okay, here's not just the go zone, but the other don't go zones. And it sounds like that kind of clouds the focus, if you will, because now, even though you want the focus to go to this go zone, some of that focus is having to be spread elsewhere. What's your process for not focusing on the don't, but to override it and say only focus on the do?
It's just over the last couple of years on trying to eliminate all of those. Like I used to have a lot of self-talk over shot. We're not going to go here. We're not going there. We're not doing this. And the more I told myself everything I wasn't doing, it got in the way of allowing the flow to happen of everything that I've trained for. Because when you're out there training and practicing and, you know, you're going at a target, you don't have all these thoughts in your head, don't do this, don't do that. Like, I almost kind of equate it to when I was playing basketball and you're shooting free throws. You don't tell yourself, don't hit this corner of the square behind the thing, don't do this, don't do this. You line up and you pick your target and you go. And so for me, then I tried to translate some of my other athletic stuff I did in my younger years into this. And, you know, when I was playing softball, you didn't say, when I'm catching a ground ball from third base and throwing it to first, don't do this, don't do this. You just picked your target, which was the first baseman's glove, and you went to that. And so if I translated that into golf, why I've identified where I want to go. So why would I put my energy and focus on where I don't want to go, you know? And I've spent my time in my practice rounds or driving up to the green assessing that. And now it's just time to, in a sense, almost lock and load on where I want to go and expend all my energy on that target that I've picked, if that makes any sense.
No, I love that. I love that. Is there anything that you do throughout the rest of your day that applies into that process on the golf course?
Oh, wow. In terms of like what? Like
Any kind of like parallels that you might be able to think of? Breathing, meditation, journaling. Are you some people say that they get a lot of focus from doing puzzles or playing games. Is there anything else in life that might parallel that process of, all right, well, instead of focusing on all these things, I'm just going to narrow that focus in?
I definitely journal. And then since we've talked, I've started in the morning, just kind of setting more specific intentions for the day. And those have really kind of helped. Like every night before I leave the course, I like journal or take notes on my phone or in my book. And like I'll have a plan for the next day. So that kind of helps clarify that. So every day when I leave the course, I've planned for the next day, which kind of helps with me with clarity when I get to the course. I already know what I'm going to do. And then as the day starts, like since we talked, I kind of get up and, you know, what's my intention for the day? What are the things I need to accomplish? You know, just more specific goals. And then that almost provides more clarity as I get to the course. And then as I'm driving to the course, I'm already focused on, you know, when I get there, this is my plan. This is what I'm going to do. So.
Awesome. So it sounds like you've begun that visualization process well before you've put yourself in the situation that you need to actually hit a shot. Sounds like
yeah.
You know ahead of time, here's what I'm going to be working on today. Here's what my focus is going to be. This is what I want to get out of today. And it sounds like when you're looking through that lens, if you will, then you will find what it is you're looking for.
Yeah, absolutely. Before I leave the course that night, I already know, you know, based upon that day's practice, what I want to focus on the next day. And then there's the overall goals, you know, that my coach and I have and things that I'm working on. But definitely based upon what happened that day, you know, I address the strengths, the weaknesses, you know, what did I succeed at? What do I feel like I need more work on, you know? And then that sets up the next day's plan before I've even left the course. That's in place.
Awesome. I love that. Now, I think something that we haven't touched on yet, but I think is really important. You had shared with me what happened after the hole-in-one, which I think is just as important as what happened to get to the hole-in-one. So for everybody watching, what did you do the next hole?
Birdied it.
Birdied it. That's pretty special to go hole-in-one and then not get flustered, but then go to a birdie. So what was that like? What was it like to go from basically 3 under in 2 holes?
Yeah, that was kind of cool. You know, it was kind of neat. We pulled up to the green and, you know, after I was kind of like, oh, I got the hole-in-one. And then we drove up there and I walked up and got my ball and the ranger was there and he congratulated me. And I was playing with my boyfriend and, you know, got the big hug and the kiss and then waited for him to putt out. And then I remember, like, I've really tried hard to institute when I leave that green, regardless of what has happened, I'll give myself the however many steps it is to get to the cart or whatever. and then I'm done with that hole. So I can feel whatever emotion, I can process that hole, what has happened. But then the minute my foot hits the running board in the cart, like I'm done. It's shut off and it's on to the next hole. And, you know, I kind of call the next hole like it's the next puzzle, or what do I need to solve to get this ball in the hole. And so then all my actions and intentions are focused on where I'm going to next, the tee box and that kind of stuff. And so I really implemented that same process. Like I stood up there, I was like, wow, it's kind of cool. I got a hole in one while I was waiting, you know, for my boyfriend to putt out. And then walking off, I was like, okay, that's cool. But now we need to refocus because I still got to go tee off. Like this isn't done. And then I really kind of challenged myself to, how do I take this emotion, which was kind of cool, and not allow myself to get too high, because I still have another job to do on this next tee box. I still have another hole to play, and really challenge myself. Can I, in a sense, tamp down what just happened, you know, between walking off the green and getting to the cart, and go up and, you know, I don't know, not necessarily withdraw from that emotional high, but just that's there and that's great, but that needs to be pushed off to the side because I still have this tee shot. I still have the rest of this round to finish. And so really challenge myself just to really, can I slide in even deeper than what I just was on that previous hole? And like, let's go. And so I stepped up and hit my tee shot. It was a good shot, middle of the fairway. And then hit my next shot onto the green and tucked it close and made the birdie putt. And I was like, well, that was kind of cool, you know. And then it was just, again, more so like there's still more work to do. And so, you know, that was great. And then I kind of have this thing in my head, like I separate the good shots kind of get filed on the right side, and the, just, you know, not necessarily bad shots, but stuff I need to work on or talk to my coach about goes on the left side. And so I just made sure when I walked off that green, that got filed on the good side. And then again, it was on to the next hole. It was just, you know, the process. And it was great to get birdie and be 3 under, you know, after 4, but I still had more holes to play. And so it was really a push-pull of like, okay, that's really cool. And like, I was like, I can't wait to text Blaine about this. This is going to be really cool. But then still, again, there's work to do, you know, and so it's kind of checking yourself. And it was great. It was a great challenge to, how do I stay focused for the rest of these holes, you know?
What would you say is the biggest lesson in, I'm going to call it personal growth for lack of better words, that you've learned in the last week or 2 weeks as this is all unfolded? What little, you know, I'm a big believer golf is the game of life, and it teaches us lessons about ourselves and about everything else in the universe through this game. What is it that you learned over these last couple of weeks about yourself or about your game or about the world, or anything that you were able to take away from that experience?
There was a lot. I've learned that I'm stronger mentally than I thought I was. Like, to come back with that birdie was probably one of the coolest things for me, to be able to, you know, like experience that high of the hole in one. Like that was, you know, sitting here today and be like, wow, that was really cool. You know, on the course, like it was like I had to moderate that amount of emotion because I couldn't allow myself to get that high and be like, holy cow, that was a hole in one, and still go on and compete and play and all of that. So I've learned that mentally that was stronger than what I thought, to be able to do that and then come back with a birdie. And that it's great that you can experience stuff and then you can celebrate it later on. It was almost like that delayed gratification. Like I could allow myself to experience all that once I was done. And so I didn't have to have all that right then, if that makes any sense. Like I could experience something super great and then still continue to go on and work and strive and go towards my goals and fall into the process, which for me was the hugest win, was to be able to have all of that and then slide back in. And I did slide in deeper on the next hole than I was on the hole with the hole in one. So that for me was the big success, to be able to find that place amongst, you know, all the happiness and everything.
So I guess last question here is for everybody who's watching. You know, I've already seen a lot of comments on my thread on Facebook, and people have been messaging me like, I want a hole in one, I want one, right? And it's just like everybody wants a hole in one. And obviously there's just as much luck versus skill versus mental power that goes into getting one. But for anybody who's watching and they're getting a lot out of this, obviously you're an inspiration to them. You've only been playing 3 years. You've been able to shoot in the 70s. You've gotten a hole in one. You have a mindset that a lot of us are trying to work toward. If you were to talk to somebody who's just getting started with golf, what would your advice be to them? And then the second part would be, let's say you're talking to somebody who's been playing their whole life and they still haven't gotten one. What would you tell them? Well, let's start with somebody who's just getting started.
For me, if I could go back and talk to myself when I first got started, it would be about your score doesn't define who you are. How you swing the club doesn't define who you are, but definitely how you act out there on the golf course defines who you are. And, at the end of the day, if you shoot 91 or 71, that's not who you are. That's something you did out there. But how you behaved while you shot 71 really defines who you are and your character, and all of that. And then it really is about the process, because for me, like, I've really found that when I get super detailed, like say I'm chipping up, I can pick a blade of grass that I want this ball to land on, and that result is not as good for me as if I just go back, envision my shot, visualize it, set up to the ball, and let all the work that I've done happen in that motion. And so that it's really just about the process. Like, I didn't plan out that shot. I identified my go zone, but I never thought to myself, ball's going to hit here, it's going to bounce here, it's going to do this, it's going to hit the flagstick and go in the hole. And so it was like you were talking about yesterday. You had this great idea, you're going to hit this ledge, it was going to spin back, and all of that. But then when you let go of all of that and you trusted the process and all the work that you've done and you put in, then it just allows it to happen. And I feel like sometimes I can overthink and get in the way of my brain, and get in the way of everything happening. So really, if you can just find, for the beginning golfer, your process and what works for you and fall into that, I don't know, maybe it makes it less complicated and more fun.
No, I love that. I love that a lot. I think there's a lot of really good value that from my experience teaching golfers and working on people's golf swings, especially earlier in my career, so much of it was caught up in that score, making the perfect swing, and everybody just wants the result, which I totally get. Early on, it's important that we find the middle of the club face, we get the ball up in the air, we get it moving forward. But at the same time, what you're talking about and what I like to teach is, yes, we want that to be the case. We want to find the middle of the face. We want it to go up. We want it to go forward. But we don't get to it by trying to chase it directly, right? It's about, okay, how is your grip? How is your posture? How is the rhythm of your swing? And the rest falls into place. But what would you say for somebody who's been playing for a while? Maybe they've been playing their whole life, 30, 40, 50 years. They still haven't gotten a hole in one. What advice would you give to somebody like that?
No, trust the process. Clearly, I think the more golf you play, the better opportunity you have that you're going to get the hole in one. There's more chances. I don't know. What would you tell them, Blaine? Like, that's a hard one for me just because I don't have that much experience, in 30 years of golf. I don't know.
Sure. And I think you might have more wisdom than you might know that you have when it comes to golf. Maybe experience, sure, it's only been 3-4 years, but I think the wisdom that you have gotten out of this game is pretty great. And I think, at least based off what we've been talking about, if I were to talk to somebody who's been playing, say, 30, 40, 50 years, the thing that's going to start to happen is if they focus on getting that hole in one, they are not going to get that hole in one. And so I love what you said of, first, you have to go play. If you're not standing on that tee box, you don't have an opportunity. So the more you play, the better your chances are going to be. And then you just have to surrender to it. Don't expect that you're going to make it. And the biggest thing that I like to tell myself as I get older and as I play more, and I know I'm still young, but I've been playing like 25 years now, is what can I learn from every shot? Whether it goes in, whether I shank it off into the trees, regardless of the shot, what can I learn from it? How did I dedicate myself to the process? How was my rhythm and my tempo? How was my posture? How was my mindset? Just being very aware, I think, is really powerful. Of just this internal awareness, this external awareness, being aware of the people playing next to you, being aware of what the birds and the animals out on the course are doing.
Right.
And that gets you in touch with something much deeper and much more powerful than the shot. And that's how we find that shot.
No, I totally love that. We used to, when I first started getting serious out there and everything, I used to keep a scorecard not on the physical result, but on what I called my controllables, which was my setup, my grip, my posture, my mindset, my thoughts. I would pick a couple of different things, and those are the things that I would keep score on. I mean, as much as I like to train and work on my swing and everything, I can't control what's going to happen with my body. I can have every intention for everything to go well, but who knows what happens during this golf swing. Sometimes I amaze myself, both good and bad. But I can definitely control how I thought. I can control how I set up to it, how I gripped it, the line that I picked. And if I do all of those things, in a sense, I guess, correctly, or whatever optimizes myself for the best success, then that allows everything that I've trained so hard on the range to happen. But if I set up aiming left, and I don't catch that, and my shoulders are totally left and my feet are right, how do I allow myself any chance for success if I haven't done all of those other things that I can control correctly? So I love that. And then I think too, it is just almost that sense of being thankful, like you said, and being aware of how great it is to be out there and noticing everything else that is around out there, the birds and the wind. And there's times that like I'll take out there when we're playing just to be like, wow, this is amazing. You know what I'm saying? Like everything, and how blessed are we to be able to get out there and do this, and experience this, whether you're shooting 105 or, the 65 round. It's still such a blessing to be able to get out there and play and, be healthy enough that we can do this and all of that. So there is, I think, each time when you're out there, that's time to be thankful and just so appreciative for everything that we have out there to do.
I love that. Are you playing today?
Of course.
What are your intentions for today?
It's really more about the mindset. I played yesterday. We actually played with a sixum. It was 3 groups of 2, and we had little cart battles. And that was different for me. I've never played with that many people and done that before. So the mindset, like yesterday, I really struggled for a couple holes to fall in. I actually felt like there was almost like a barrier between, I couldn't get there. We played like 15 holes, and it took me until about hole 8 or 9 to be able to kind of break past that barrier. So I really want to go out today and try to explore that a little bit more. Like when I feel uncomfortable, there's a group of us that's going to play again today. So for me, when I feel uncomfortable out there, is it taking that extra couple seconds to settle myself and slide in? Because yesterday I felt like I was really kind of rushed. And it was interesting because I hit some really good shots, which felt absolutely horrible, in terms of settling into that place. I couldn't find it. And like you and I talked about, I can't push it, I can't push to get into that. And I've learned that I can't chase that. It was just on the fringe, but I just couldn't slide in. I couldn't get that envelope feeling where it was just me for like 8 holes or so. And then finally I was able to get in, but not as deep as I wanted to. So it's more today about going out, and when we're playing again, how do I come in and out of that place, and how do I get in there deeper? And how do I do that? Is it taking an extra couple seconds to breathe and kind of steady myself and not feeling so rushed to get in there? But that's really the intention today is for that, is to learn how to settle more in the presence of people and people I didn't know, and to settle more into that today.
That's awesome. I want to end real quick with a couple of rapid fires. What is your favorite club in the bag?
Oh gosh, my putter or my wedge?
Which wedge?
60.
60. Let's do top 3 favorite courses you've ever played.
Oh my gosh, we played DC Ranch out here in Arizona. We had a club team championship, Longbow, and Dinosaur Mountain.
Top 3 courses on your bucket list that you have not played.
Oh my gosh. Pebble Beach, definitely. That course in Oregon, I forget the name of it.
Is it the Bandon Resort?
Yes, that one. Yes, that one. And then definitely Myrtle Beach.
Awesome. Well, then you and I have a whole other conversation that needs to happen. And I went to school in Myrtle Beach.
No.
Yeah, so we'll definitely talk about where to go play out there.
Okay.
What would be, let's say you got invited to play Augusta National the week of the Masters. You had to fill out your foursome. So you get to pick 3 people. They can be dead or alive. They could be golfers, celebrities, family, doesn't matter. Who would you play with?
Oh my gosh. I definitely pick Nick Saban. I love him and his mindset, and just, oh my gosh, to spend a whole round just being able to talk mindset with him would be super great. Definitely Tiger, again, for mindset and practicing all of that. And then, I don't know. I'd take you, Blaine.
Oh, thank you.
How fun would that be?
All right, we're going to make this one happen then.
Okay.
I love it. Awesome. Well, Jackie, I can't thank you enough for being here and sharing your story with everybody. Like I said, the wisdom that you have from the game is far beyond your years of experience. And there's amazing things happening in your game and in your career right now. And it's really fun to watch unfold. And the biggest thing is don't ever stop. Keep that mindset strong and get out there and keep playing. And yeah, I really appreciate you being here. And I know there's going to be a lot of people that get a lot of really good things out of this. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Blaine.
All right, we'll be talking soon, Jackie. Have a great time out on the course today. Bye.
Absolutely. Bye.